All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm excited to jump right into another deep dive with you. We're on episode 38 out of 50, still going strong, exploring Marifat, those awesome conversations with Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani.
And as always, of course, they're talking about Saadi.
You know it. And a quick disclaimer first.
Yeah.
This is all translated, so bear with us as we try to, get all the meaning from their original discussion.
Right.
So today we're going to tackle one of Saadi's fables. This one, it's about the nightingale and the ant. Sounds simple enough, right?
Yes.
Well, as always with Saadi, there's definitely a lot more going on.
Yeah.
He's using this little story to deal with some really big questions. What's the point of life? Where do we even come from?
Exactly.
And where are we going? The stuff that keeps you up at night.
The big questions, yeah.
Yeah.
The things that we all think about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Saadi sets us up with this contrast, He gives us this beautiful garden, flowers blooming everywhere, the nightingale singing its heart out, just lost in the beauty of it all. Then you've got the ant working away, storing stuff for the future.
Right.
Seems pretty straightforward, right? But then
he slips it. He actually praises the ant.
Yeah.
I totally thought he'd be all about that carefree nightingale, but Dr. Dinani pointed out that the nightingale, it doesn't really think ahead, which is a problem,
Yes.
All present, no future.
Well, and it kind of plays with that typical way we think about these creatures.
Right.
Is a good life just about indulging yourself, or is there more to it?
So is he saying we should all just be like ants then? Hoarding, always planning. That doesn't sound so fun.
Well, that's where Saadi gets deeper. I mean, he's not literally saying we should all just toil and collect stuff, right?
Okay.
But I saw making us think about what kind of future we should be getting ready for. Is it just about money and stuff, or is there a bigger, maybe even spiritual side to it?
Okay, I see where he's going with this. He wants us to think bigger picture, not just the surface.
Exactly. And Dr. Larijani takes it even further. He asks, what is our ultimate end? Is it just when our bodies die, or is there something more? This is really the core of what Saadi's exploring here.
Wow, now we're getting into it. But I have to admit, I'm a little lost. Something more. What does he mean? Is he talking about, an afterlife?
It's not necessarily about religion specifically. The key is Saadi and Dr. Larijani, they're pushing back against the idea that death is the end. They're pointing to something beyond just our physical bodies, something eternal.
So basically, maybe there's a bigger reality than what we can see and touch.
Right. And Dr. Dinani even says this ability to think about where we come from and where we're going, that's what makes us different from other creatures. We don't just exist, we question, we look for meaning. That searching, that's part of being human.
That's a really cool point. So then where do we even start looking for those answers?
Well, Dr. Dinani compares different ways. He talks about how physics, it explains how the universe works, but not why. It can trace things back to the Big Bang, but what caused that, what was before, physics can't really say.
So if science can't answer the big why, where do we turn?
That's where philosophy and religion come in. They give us ways to understand the universe and ourselves that go beyond just the material world. They deal with ideas like purpose, meaning the eternal.
Okay, that makes sense. But it still feels a little abstract. How do we connect with this eternal stuff? Is it just an idea, or can we actually experience it?
That's what's so interesting about what Dr. Larijani says about the eternal. He asks, if we long for the infinite, for something beyond limits, where does that longing come from? Maybe it's a hint that we're actually connected to something bigger, something eternal, even if we don't realize it.
Whoa, that's a pretty wild thought. Maybe we crave the eternal because we are part of it somehow.
Exactly. And this leads to a concept they talk about, hali and fesi. It's an inner state of being. Dr. Larijani explains that by going inward, by reaching a certain state of consciousness, we can experience a reality where past, present, future, it all merges. We can experience the eternal directly outside of time.
Hold on, I'm trying to get this. So it's not just thinking about the eternal, but actually experiencing it through some kind of interchange. But how do we even do that?
It's definitely a complex idea. Maybe that's why Saadi uses stories and symbols to point us in the right direction. He's not giving us a step-by-step guide, but inviting us to explore through metaphors.
So the nightingale and ant fable, it's like a doorway to this deeper understanding.
Exactly. And as we go deeper into Saadi's work, we'll see how he weaves these philosophical ideas into his poetry. He makes us question everything we think we know about life, death, and reality itself. That's where Saadi is so clever with his symbols. He doesn't just tell us how to reach this hali and fesi, but he gives us clues in his stories.
So how does this nightingale and ant story fit in? I mean, they show us two ways of living, but it's not like one's right and one's wrong, is it?
You're right, it's more nuanced than that. Saadi's all about those shades of gray. He wants us to think about the good and bad of each way. The nightingale, so focused on beauty, enjoying the moment, it reminds us to appreciate the good things in life, right?
Right, but without that ant's planning, we might end up like the grasshopper, totally unprepared when things go south. So is Saadi saying we need a balance between these two?
Exactly. And that balance, it's not a set thing. It changes throughout life. Sometimes we need to be like the nightingale, lost in the now. Other times we need that ant's practicality to get through tough stuff and plan ahead.
How do we know when to be which, though? Is there like a Saadi formula for this?
Well, if there is, he's not telling. Saadi's a master at making us think, not giving easy answers. He wants us to struggle with these questions, figure out what works for us. And that might look different for everyone, depending on your situation, who you are, even how old you are.
Okay, no cheat sheet then. Fair enough. But I'm still curious. How does this connect to language? We've been talking interstates, philosophy, but Saadi's a poet. Where do words come into this? It feels like a big leap.
It's not as big as you might think. Remember Tamathul, this idea that meanings from a higher place, a spiritual realm, they're taking shape in us all the time. Dr. Dinani says how clearly those meanings come through depends on the state of our being.
Wait, Tamathul. Could you back up a sec? I don't think we've actually defined that, and I'm sure some listeners are like, what's that?
You're right, I got ahead of myself there. Tamathul basically means assimilation, taking on a form, like how our inner self reflects deeper spiritual meanings.
Got it. So it's like we're always getting these little hints, whispers of wisdom from somewhere beyond our normal awareness.
Exactly, and how clearly we pick up on those hints depends on what's going on inside us.
So back to that Holly and Fessy idea. The more inner peace and purity we have, the clearer those higher meanings come through. Dr. Dinani used that vessel metaphor, right?
Yes. The purer the vessel, the clearer the reflection. So if we're in Hali and Fessy, our words will naturally show that inner harmony, that connection to something bigger.
It's not about sounding all smart or spiritual then. It's about letting our words come from that quiet place inside, connected to the eternal, being a channel for something greater.
Exactly. And that's where the nightingale and ant come back in. Just like we need a balance between their ways of life, we need balance in our language too.
Now I'm really interested. What does that balance look like with words?
Well, sometimes we use words to express feelings, to inspire, to paint a picture, like that Nightingale song. Other times we need to be clear, get information across, like the ant carrying its food, very practical.
So it's about being flexible, choosing the right words for the situation. Like a nightingale song is great in a garden, not so much in a business meeting.
Exactly. And that flexibility needs self-awareness. Saadi says to pay attention to who we're talking to, the context, what we're trying to do. Are we speaking from ego or from a place of real connection?
It makes me think how often I use words to impress people or get what I want instead of connecting honestly. Ouch. It's humbling, but also maybe empowering. If you see these patterns, we can change them.
Absolutely. And that change can be huge. Dr. Larijani points out a danger in our modern world.
Right.
We're flooded with words, information overload. It's easy to become numb to it, lose that sense of wonder and meaning.
It's like that almond analogy Dr. Dinani used. We're stuck on the shell, the surface, missing the good stuff inside.
Exactly. And this numbness can affect how WE use language, too. We get used to empty talk, twisting words for our own gain. We forget their power to connect, to heal, to inspire.
How do we break out of that then? How do we find that wonder and meaning in language again, connect to those deeper truths we talked about?
Well, Saadi gives us some guidance. He reminds us to approach language with respect, to find that stillness inside, to connect with the source of meaning within.
So it all comes back to Hali and Fessy again. It's like the foundation for everything.
It really is. And as we cultivate this inner state, we see the world and our words differently. The ordinary becomes amazing, the everyday full of meaning.
And this change isn't just for poets or philosophers, right? Anyone can tap into this no matter who they are or what they do.
Absolutely. Saadi's teachings are universal. He's talking to everyone about that human need for meaning, for connection. And he reminds us, language is powerful for reaching those goals.
It's not about being a perfect speaker or writer, but matching our words to our values, our deepest selves, using language to bring people together, to heal, to make a kinder, fairer world.
And that journey, like all worthwhile ones, starts with one step. So let's take that step together. Let's choose our words carefully. Let's cultivate that inner quiet. Let's truly listen and speak with purpose. Let's make our words reflect the beauty and wisdom in our hearts.
And as we keep looking at Saadi's work over the next few episodes,
Mm-hmm.
remember his teachings, they're not just ideas,
Yeah.
like a call to action. You know, he's saying, live with more awareness, connect more deeply, and use your words to make the world better.
So true. Let's take on that challenge together. Let our words reflect the best of us and be a force for good out there.
Beautifully said. And until next time, everyone, may your words be full of wisdom and compassion and that radiant light of truth.